I have realized that you adolescent shit goblins need a justification or want to know why I fucking despise the Republican Party, though. And my lack of any effort to actually explain these things to you is something that I will correct for at the moment. I have watched and been observing political events for quite some time by now. I have seen the goings ons and everything. And from my vantage point, for instance, there may be an illusion where it's plausible, for instance, that what the Republicans are trying to do or trying to make the Democrats bow down to are reasonable demands. But from my vantage point, it's clear as day that the demands the Republicans are making of the Democrats in terms of concessions are basically things that would end their political careers if they were to ever actually concede to the Republicans in any way. So they're just non-starters. It's like they want to axe Social Security. They want to axe, the third rail of American politics, basically. They want to get rid of it. They think that it's a bad thing, I guess, because they want to force people like me to go work for their companies and make them richer at their fucking stupid, and it's not really about the fact that I'm lazy. It's about the fact that they want to benefit from my labor. That's really what it's about. And Social Security gave people options other than working for them. And that's why it upsets them. If you want to know why I fucking hate them, I was here for the shutdown drama. I saw what happened. I saw their attempts to extract unreasonable from my, like completely unreasonable concessions from the Democratic Party by using the shutdown as a tool to play brinkmanship politics with the risk of national default over, all this stuff against the Democratic Party. And to me, it was like, let's watch these people try to use the threat of pitting Meals on Wheels, against furloughed workers to, extract politically suicidal cuts to government services that will spell the end of the Democratic Party's careers if they have the nerve in any way to basically, offer these kinds of concessions to the Republican Party. No, there is absolutely no good reason to vote for the Democrats if they will not basically bring, Congress to an absolute standstill because of the fact that, Republicans basically want to axe, entitlements. They want to, what they call entitlements anyways, but our earned benefits is really more accurate. I have no interest in them or their party, and it's not a good look for these people to be basically playing these games of pitting, Meals on Wheels against furloughed workers and everything. They just look like a bunch of vile, contemptuous ghouls. And yet I have a bunch of people in this country that are like willing to vote for these ghoulish fucks, which means that they have to be ghouls too themselves. It's like Donald Trump and the Republicans want to do something that is so vile, so wicked, and throw the most vulnerable onto the streets, and off of whatever support and help they're getting from anybody else. And, force, completely, heretical, cuts to, incredibly popular programs down the throat of the Democratic Party by risking, a national default on our debts and everything. And despite the disgraceful conduct of the Republican Party, it has given almost no one, even here on YouTube, a good reason to even contemplate voting against them. I find it astonishing, really. Another thing that I find so fucking irritating about the whole thing is that, I too feel the pain of shopping at the grocery. The high prices, yeah, I don't like them either. But I do know one thing, which is that the Republicans won't do anything to fix it. If they get in power, they'll do what they've always done, which is more trickle down economics, where they cut rich people's taxes. which will not create jobs or stimulate growth, and we know that it won't. And we know this. We're not people that are, are overconfident or think that we know this. No, we are absolutely certain and have justified true knowledge. We don't just know that trickle down economics doesn't work. We know more than that. We know why they don't work, and we are absolutely certain that they don't work and that there's no possibility whatsoever that we could be wrong. I am absolutely certain that Republican economic policies don't work. I don't have doubt about it. I know this to be the case. And I know that they don't work because, I have plenty of business owners who are willing to come right up here on YouTube and say, the fucking plain Jane truth about the situation, which is just, if you cut my taxes, I'll pocket it. Why would I hire anybody? And basically, the business owner will point out to the obvious reality that, if the, for a capitalist business owner, basically, hiring is a matter of last resort. They will point this out. They will point out if I don't get more customers to my business, why would I hire, anybody if my demand is going to be the same either way? Tax cuts do nothing to stimulate aggregate demand. And so they don't create jobs. They don't, create this whole, clusterfuck that they and their party are engaged in. And the people who believe that the Republican Party are pushing economics that make sense or put more faith in the Republican Party, those people are suffering from delusions. I'm sorry, but it's the fucking truth. They are. What do you call somebody when there are mountains of evidence against, supply side economics and against the Laffer curve, and that are against, all these Republican ideas, and are against, pretty much every single one of their economic policies has mountains against it, and yet there are still people clinging to it, as if it happens to be true. What do you call a group of people that cling to a false belief in the face of overwhelming evidence against it? There's a word for that. It's called delusion. It's called being psychotic. Well, Republican orthodoxy on economics has been roundly refuted, and yet, somehow the voters have convinced themselves that they are more trustworthy on the economy. This is overconfident delusions. This is, delusions of grandeur. And, so if you have more faith in the Republican economic policies, I have something and a message to deliver to you. If you trust them more on the economy, seek mental help. You are suffering from a form of psychosis. Their ideas don't work. And there are mountains of evidence against it. And yet, despite these mountains of evidence, you still believe the delusional crock of garbage that you happen to believe about the situation. I'm sorry, but, it would be great. It would be great if their ideas worked. Sam Brownback came before Kansas and basically said, this is an experiment. And then what did he do? He cut the taxes almost entirely, and he said it would be like a shot of adrenaline. And then, Kansas really suffered intensely. It blew up. The null hypothesis was confirmed. The experiment failed. And yet here we are in a world in which people still, despite the discrediting that the Kansas economy did to Republican orthodoxy, you still have people that think that they are, more, that they are more correct about economics than the Democratic Party, or who trust them more on economics than the Democrats. And my contention and bone to pick with all of this is that this is psychosis in action. It's delusional garbage. These people cling to their belief wholesale in spite of mountains upon mountains upon mountains of evidence refuting every single one of them. Their concerns have been refuted roundly in economics as well. And I happen to agree with Nick Hanover. I've come to the realization that a lot of these people are so disingenuous, for instance, on things like saying that raising the minimum wage will cause unemployment and everything, because they know that the evidence flies against their position, but they don't care, because for them, it's about winning. It's about convincing me, you, and most people that, look at that good, nice, cushy job you've got there. It would be a shame if something were to happen to it. It's intimidation masquerading as economics against, some people like me's ideas about how things work. It's not. And I'm mad about it. I'm mad at this point. And I know that the pain that I feel at the grocery sucks, but if the answer to the high prices, I'm not delusional enough to think that the answer to high prices at the groceries is to just change who's in charge of the presidency. I don't have any faith that Donald Trump will do anything to bring inflation down. I know that he might say he will, but I have no reason to trust his word and take him at that word at all. Especially because of the fact that he retracts and he's wishy-washy, He's a flip-flopper. He goes back and forth on things all the time and completely unstable and everything. And yet, here we are where I have to justify why I hate these people. They're wrong on economics. There's mountains of evidence refuting it. People still cling to it because, I don't know, they're irrationally in love with this godforsaken party, So yeah, I mean, I've got plenty of reason to hate them. They've ignored overwhelming amounts of evidence that are against all of their economic ideas. It's out there. I mean, all you people had to do was go looking for it. The Laffer curve has been roundly debunked, in paper after paper after paper. And yet, let's pretend that all of these economic empirical studies never, ever happened, Let's ignore all the mountains of evidence against Republican ideas. I'm so done. I'm fucking exhausted with the bullshit. And I know that what's happening is really just like a mobster trying to intimidate us into submission. They don't care, because for them, saying that raising the minimum wage would, basically raise unemployment is not really about whether it's true or false, or that fact happens to be true or false. It's about the fact that it is the most effective tactic they have ever found for keeping wages low and down. It's the most effective tactic they've had to intimidate people into submission. That's what it's really about. They're not genuinely concerned. It's completely disingenuous bullshit that is being raised as objections at this point. Why do I hate the Republican Party? Because they're a bunch of ghouls. They're the party of big business. They're the party of, they're the party of the man, basically. The man who is always trying to find a way to dick the little guy over. And that's what you're all gonna vote for. You're gonna vote for the greater evil that basically, for more or less is going to, side with the CEOs and the rich plutocrats of the world, rather than, the people that would, side with the little guys. And that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna go up there and vote for that party. That party is gonna solve your woes. I mean, I just don't get it with the fucking delusional garbage that people, have to be suffering from to think that the Republicans will help them or give a fuck about them at all. Politics is an incredibly frustrating arena. It's just like I look out there and I see the steadfast loyalty of, a good segment of the white male population towards the Republican Party, and I can't for the life of me figure out why they don't hate them. I don't get it. You know, if you had bothered to do even just a few seconds of research, you could find paper after paper after paper that pretty much systematically refuted them and all of their ideas about economics, and yet you won't. And I think a lot of you won't do it because you want to believe that the delusional garbage that you already believe is true, and it challenges you and your bullshit beliefs.